My Lords, I declare my interest as a landowner, a passionate conservationist and the president of the Moorland Association. And I wish to talk about the new policy of biodiversity net gain, although I agree with my noble friend Lord Ben Cathro that it would be better to call it nature net gain. It's good to see this policy being enacted into law. I remember the fury with which a lot of green pressure groups reacted to Owen Paterson's suggestion of offsetting when he was Secretary of State. Now, seeing that it might be a source of revenue, they have changed their tune. But a lot can go wrong if the policy is badly implemented. So I want to set out how I think this bill can be improved to ensure that the policy benefits biodiversity rather than bureaucracy. And to do this, I want to tell two stories from recent personal experience. The first is that I own a converted barn as a holiday home in the Durham Dales, and last year we drew up plans to extend it with an extra bedroom. We were told we could not even apply for planning permission till we'd had a bat survey, and this being October, we could not have a bat survey till spring, and then not till the temperature was consistently above 15 degrees. Well, it never got that warm in April and May this year, so the bat survey is happening this week, done by 3 ecologists at dusk. There's bats about, but they're common pipistrelles, and there's plenty of roosting space that won't be disturbed by the work, so we'll probably get the go-ahead. But the episode will have delayed the work for nearly 2 years, and it won't have done anything for the bats. The better approach for the bats is offsetting, building lots of bat roosts right at the start, and then going ahead with the development. That's biodiversity net gain in action. The trouble is it's bad news for bat surveyors who will lobby against it. So my first question for the Minister is, can he assure me that biodiversity net gain is going to be introduced instead of, rather than as well as, the wasteful policy of endlessly paying out vast sums of taxpayers' money to do futile ecological surveys before development? The second story. A few weeks ago, I went to see a farm on the Isle of Sheppey on the outskirts of London, where a man named Philip Merricks has done something remarkable. He was a normal arable farmer till the land was designated as the site of special scientific interest and a national nature reserve. This meant farming in a more wildlife-friendly way. But he took one look at the recommendations from the government and said, I can do better than that. If you want peewits and redshanks, sorry, you call them lapwings down there, I will farm for them as if they were sheep. And he now has 350 pairs of both lapwings and redshanks on a spectacular landscape of wet meadows grazed by cattle, rich in bird life. And he achieves this by ruthless predator control, killing hundreds of crows a year and excluding badgers with special fences, as well as imaginative habitat management. Next door, the RSPB had similar habitat, just as good, but was rearing only 0.1 chicks per pair of lapwings. That means, as Merrick realized, that they were effectively draining his population by making good habitat tempting to birds, but where the eggs and chicks were all taken by crows, gulls, foxes, and badgers, they were actually doing harm to the species. They would be in breach of the new species abundance target that my noble friend the Minister mentioned in his speech. Yet this is how most conservation is done in this country. We count the birds, but not the chicks. We pay by intentions, we don't measure the results, and we reward failure. The RSPB owns a huge moorland in North Wales at Lake Vyrnwy, where they have presided over steadily declining numbers of curlew, lapwing, merlin, black grouse and red grouse, and been rewarded with millions of pounds of grants and subsidies precisely because these species are doing so badly there. Whereas the land my family business shares with farmers in the North Pennines has a huge and healthy population of curlew, lapwing, redshank, snipe, woodcock, golden plover, dunlin, black grouse, all achieved at our own expense through relentless control of foxes, crows and stoats. But of course, we're pilloried by environmentalists because we also shoot grouse. So 2 more questions for my noble friend, the Minister. Can we have nature-based policies that reward success and not failure? And can we allow experimentation and local initiative and not try to determine everything from the centre? We need conservation entrepreneurs like Philip Merricks, incentivized to find cost-effective solutions, not risk-averse monopolies of bureaucrats playing safe by never trying anything new and insisting on a one-size-fits-all policy that doesn't tap local knowledge. This bill's ambitions for nature recovery will not be met unless the private sector investment into private land holdings is facilitated. Nature recovery cannot be left solely within the domain of the big environmental NGOs. They don't have access to sufficient land, and landowners rarely want them involved in the management of that land. Natural England are progressing with the establishment of a credit sales platform through which government credits in biodiversity net gain will be sold to developers. This is a huge mistake, I think, because it will inevitably crowd out a developing market in these credits. It's statist and anti-competitive, and hence open to legal challenge. My lords, nature should not be left to risk-averse public sector monopolies. We should all be allowed to play our part in its enhancement.
I call the next speaker, Lord Faulkner of Worcester.
My lords, this has been an extraordinarily wide-ranging and fascinating debate, and it's a pleasure to follow the noble Viscount for